Welcome, Rotarians and guests. We are Rotarians in Action, and we change lives. We'd like to introduce our greeters. If Theresa Adkison can be able to chime in and say hello to everybody.
Hello, Rotarians. It's really nice to see you guys today.
And then also, if we could be able to have Amy Mabe. I thought I just saw her there.
Here I am. Good.
She is right there.
Hello, everyone, on this beautiful day. It's good to see so many tabs. I've never been on a Zoom with 3 tabs. So congratulations and welcome.
Oh, fantastic. Thank you guys for being greeters. Really do appreciate that. So now I'd like to introduce Linda Kaminsky, who's going to be able to introduce Theresa Adkison for our music.
Thank you, and hello, Rotarians. So today's music is by our very own Theresa Adkison, and she will be singing a song which was released in 1964 as part of a Disney film, Mary Poppins. It is composed by the brothers, Richard and Robert Sherman, and it was sung by Julie Andrews in that movie. And if you're not familiar with that movie, I'll try to set the stage. So Mary Poppins is a magical nanny for the Banks children. And in this scene, she has a snow globe, which has a cathedral, a small cathedral inside. And when you turn it upside down, instead of snow, you see birds around the cathedral. And Julie Andrews is explaining to the Banks children that there's an old woman that every day sits on the steps of the cathedral surrounded by birds, and she sells packages of breadcrumbs to the passersby. So here is Theresa Adkison singing Feed the Birds.
Early each day from the steps of St. Paul's, the little old bird woman comes. In her own special way to the people she calls, come buy my bag full of crumbs. Come feed the little birds, show them you care, and you'll be glad if you do. Their young ones are hungry, their nests are so bare, all it takes is 2 from you. Feed the birds, 2 a bag, 2 a bag. Feed the birds, that's what she cries, while overhead her birds fill the skies. All around the cathedral, the saints and apostles look down as she sells her wares. Although you can't see them, you know they are smiling each time someone shows that he cares. Though her words are simple and few, listen, listen, she's calling to you. Feed the birds, 2 a bag, 2 a bag.
Wow, that was fantastic. Wow, beautiful voice. So Theresa, tell us a little bit about how long you've been singing, and professional, amateur, a whole lot better than what I would be doing in the shower, by the way. But go ahead.
Thank you, everyone. I saw all your comments. That's much easier to do this on a video than in front of you guys all at the convention center for sure. I have always sang, to be honest. My mom says I could sing before I could talk. So I don't even know what that means, but that's her story, and she stuck to it my whole life. I did do a little bit of singing in high school and college. That song I actually sang in college. I did a vocal class and participated in a production of Sweeney Todd and whatnot. And that was a song that I used for my final, and I still sing it to my 6-year-old today. So most of my singing today is tucking in time with the kids, but I did sing professionally for a few years in a cover band in Everett. I did try out for American Idol. They said no, but that was okay. It was just something I felt like I needed to be able to say I at least tried. So that was back in my 20s. But yeah.
You're definitely our Yakima idol, and you sound wonderful. And thank you for being able to, this month of June, I wanted to be able to make sure that we highlight our local Rotarians' talents. And thank you, Linda, for all your help to be able to get this to happen. Really do appreciate it. Thank you. All right, looking for Mike Johnson. Are you here for the invocation? I don't see him. Okay. All right, in case he clicks in a little bit later, we'll be able to do it. Kind of a couple of things that I want to share with you. One thing, you know, when we were doing the groundbreaking at Martin Luther King Park for the playground and the picnic shelter, this one lady introduced me, you know, as Eric Silvers, the president of the Yakima Downtown Rotary, to this young man, this young African-American kid, probably about, I'd say about 10 or 11 years old. And so he looked at me, and then he looked at her, and then he looked back at me, and then he looked at her, and then he said, but he's Black. Just want to also let you know that on the board meeting this morning, we had a really wonderful opportunity to establish a racial justice ad hoc committee to deal with racial justice right now, because Rotary has made a really strong statement about it, Rotary International as well. And so we will be putting together this with a brainstorm to action. And so we're going to ask if you're interested in participating. It's a really wonderful opportunity for us to be able to do something right here in Yakima. We've had a lot of people to participate or encouraged to be able to participate, and a lot of people have volunteered to participate. It's going to be very action oriented, and so this is going to be great. So we look forward to your participation, and thank you, board, for being able to do a unanimous vote for us to be able to put together this ad hoc committee to be able to get this taken care of. Right now it's going to be racial justice, and hopefully we'll get into other things as we move on, but we're action oriented and we are going to be able to take care of this. That is our goal. All right, Randy Beeler, we're going to introduce a new member. Matter of fact, I don't know what kind of math this is, but this will be my 100th new member, okay? All right, so Randy, go ahead.
Thank you, President Eric and fellow Rotarians. It's my pleasure to introduce Alex Meyerhoff. Alex Meyerhoff is currently the interim Yakima City Manager. Yakima, by the way, is what's described as a full-service city with an annual budget of about $232 million, around 750 employees. His duties include the oversight of the city's administrative, airport, community development, finance, fire, human resources, legal, police, and and public works department. His core competencies include strategic planning, economic development, performance management, organizational development, and budget management. Recognized for his local government expertise, Alex has made numerous presentations to diverse groups on topics such as resilience, organizational development, leadership, housing, and community development, and government transparency and ethics. In recognition of his expertise in local government, Alex received the Credentialed Manager designation from the International City-County Management Association. He is one of just 1,400 local government professionals nationwide that is currently credentialed through the ICMA voluntary credentialing program. To receive that prestigious ICMA CM credential, a member must have significant experience as an executive in local government, have earned a degree in public administration or related field, and demonstrated a commitment to high standards of integrity, lifelong learning, and professional development. Alex is also an active member of the American Institute of Certified Planners, the American Planning Association, and the International Council of Shopping Centers. Alex began working in local government in 1986. He earned a Master's of Arts and a Bachelor's of Arts degree from UCLA, and also an Associate Arts degree from the College of the Desert. He is also certified as a public engagement trainer through the Davenport Institute for Public Engagement and Civic Leadership at the School of Public Policy, that's at Pepperdine University. His value system embodies partnership, teamwork, discipline, collaboration, honor, integrity, ethics, hard work, and initiative. He is a driven leader possessing a positive, optimistic, and a can-do spirit based on the Kaizen philosophy of continuous development. Prior to coming to Yakima, Alex spent most of his career in Southern California. He was a Rotarian in the different Southern California cities that he worked in, including 29 Palms, that's in District 5330, Hopeville, which is in District 5340, Desert Hot Springs, and Hemet. Both of those are also in District 5330. Since coming to Yakima last fall, Alex has truly embraced the Yakima Valley and constantly sings its praises. Likewise, Yakima has embraced Alex. It's my distinct pleasure to introduce the newest member of the Yakima Downtown Rotary Club, Alex Meyerhoff.
All right, Alex, boy, you know, I've been in a few meetings with Alex, and I tell you, he really exemplifies what a Rotarian is, and I'm really looking forward to his many years of being able to work with us. Alex, so I have a license plate holder that I will get to you, and so you'll have that one, and also we have the roster, so that way you will have your own roster, and we also have a plaque for you to be able to put on your wall. And Alex, thank you for being our 100th new Rotarian, well, you know, whatever math you want to use, you guys. But, and thank you. And so maybe if you could just say hello to us, it would be wonderful.
Sure. Randy, thank you so much for the kind words. I really appreciate it. Eric, congratulations, 100 new members under your leadership. That's incredible. That's like 2 a week. What else have you been doing with your life this last year? Anyways, congratulations. I'm honored to be a member. I love Rotary. I agree in service above self. I try to exemplify it every day. I'm going to work with Eric to bring a couple more of our city staff members into the club. I definitely think that the police chief and the mayor, among others, need to be involved and active in the club. And thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
Wow, fantastic. Thank you very much. And thank you, Randy, for helping us get this taken care of. I know it's awkward on Zoom, but I tell you, this guy is going to be a great addition to our Rotary. I already know that. It's fantastic. So we have Mike Johnson. Could you come on and be able to give us our invocation, sir?
Delighted to. I apologize for my slight tardiness and throw myself on the mercy of the court in that regard. But I'll be. If you are so inclined, then you can certainly join me in this prayer, and up to you. Father in heaven, I thank you for making this valley, and I acknowledge that your making of this valley is not just a geographic reality. It's not just dirt that's in a particular shape and has a river running through it. It's us. This valley is being made every day by the members of this club and others that get up and go to their jobs or fulfill their responsibilities. This valley is made every day by the individuals that you bring, and we believe that your gift to this valley of Alex is a good gift. And so as he joins this club, God, I specifically ask for your prayer, or I specifically pray for your blessing on him and the city, especially during this time as we're struggling all through how to go about conducting an economy while protecting people's lives from COVID-19. God, I'm excited to hear that he has a connection to Pepperdine University. And I'm grateful that you allowed me to attend there as well. And it just makes me think of George Pepperdine, who started that school in the Depression in 1937 with some of the earnings of his successful business in Western Tire. And it just makes me remember that even in times of great difficulty and great need, that we can still give. And we can still do things that make permanent differences, that create legacies in people's lives long after we're gone. And so in thinking of George Pepperdine and that tradition and having emerged from the Depression, as we're in our own difficulty right now, will you please help this club be a group of people that do things that make a difference, that creates a legacy even after we are gone, no matter how difficult the times might be. Amen.
Man, thank you very much. And thank you, Mike. I know that you're dealing with some issues that are over there at the mission, and we pray for you as you guys go through this, okay?
I appreciate that, Eric. Thank you.
Right. Sergeant of Arms, Sharon Miracle.
So I'm actually going to ask Dwayne if we could unmute everybody if people want to chime in on this one. So today's topics and the weight of the world right now seems pretty heavy. So I'm going to add a little levity, I hope. Just some fun, silly facts. So I'm going to screen share. Hopefully you can see that.
I recovered some knowledge.
And so this is a little bit of, so just a reminder, you're all unmuted right now, so everything can be heard. And so this is just chime in and yell out things if you want to. Oops, hang on. Okay, so first one, besides fingerprints, what other print on the body is unique only to you? Any ideas?
Toes.
Oh, that's good.
Our handprints.
It's your tongue.
Huh?
Your tongue. Yeah, everybody's got a unique tongue. Okay, and this is relevant given what we're all experiencing now with COVID pandemic. How fast does a sneeze travel from your mouth?
6 feet.
106 miles an hour.
Ooh, good guess. Don't use your Google skills. Good one, Doug. 6. Anybody else?
325 miles per hour.
Oh, Randy, you lose again. Sorry, bud. It is 100 miles per hour.
Wow.
Really?
100 miles an hour. So that 6 feet distance with the mask on, just you can't run through this fast.
Oh.
It's going to catch you if someone sneezes. So just caution there.
Yeah, I read that wrong, Sharon. I thought it said, how fast does an irrelevant comment travel from your mouth?
Oh, nice one, Randy.
I missed that part. Go on.
Okay. What part of your body is impossible to lick? I'll just give you
Your
clues. It's
elbow.
below your neck.
Elbow.
All right. You guessed it. It's your elbow. Go ahead. I want to see somebody on screen. Go ahead. Just try not to do that. What location or place it is impossible for humans to cry?
Underwater.
Oh,
That's a good one.
Anybody else?
Good guess. Yeah.
Space. And it's because gravity prevents the tears from flowing. So you can't cry. You might make one of those ridiculous faces, but nothing's going to come out. How many people choke to death on ballpoint pens every year?
That's a thing.
That's crazy.
The answer to that is too many.
There you go.
Apparently.
So if you're one of those people, and sadly I am one of those, I always like to chew on the end of a ballpoint. This actually inspired me a little bit. But the answer, 100 people. Crazy.
Wow. Amazing.
What body part remains the same size from birth to death?
Your eyes.
Eyes.
Oh, good one. I was thinking maybe Randy Beeler's brain, but that's, that's right.
That's funny. No, that's funny, Sharon. Really funny.
Oh, I see you. What part appears on the human body between the age of 2 to 6 years of age? You don't have it at birth. Guess it?
Knees.
Oh, gosh.
Oh,
Isn't
yay!
that crazy? It's true. You do not have kneecaps. You don't have kneecaps until you're 2 to 6 years old. They actually develop somewhere along there. Explains all that flexibility. Okay, and because I know this fact, I actually am keeping this relatively short. What's the average person, how's the time the average person takes to fall asleep?
Feels like forever.
Is that before or after wine?
That's right.
2 minutes.
10 minutes.
10 minutes.
Close.
2 minutes.
5.
Carolyn never sleeps. She just waits.
That's right.
It's 7 minutes.
Wow.
That seems really fast.
That feels really
so
fast.
based on that, your final one. How many of you tried to lick your elbow today? There actually is a scientific study that says if you read this fact or if you heard this fact at some point in the next 24 hours, 93% of people try to lick their elbow. That's it.
That's too funny.
Wow, fantastic. Thank you very much. So if everybody could go ahead and mute back, and we're going to ask Quinn Dolan if she could be able to do the introduction. This is a program I've been looking forward to. This is great. Thank you. Thank you, Quinn, for coordinating this. This is a program I've been looking for a long time. And so, Quinn, if you could be able to give us your introduction of the program.
Thank you, President Eric. It's my great pleasure to introduce 2 incredibly accomplished and dynamic women. These women are truly trailblazers. Justice Mary Yu was appointed to the Washington State Supreme Court in 2014. Prior to her appointment, she handled both criminal and civil matters as a King County Deputy Prosecuting Attorney. When she officially became Justice Yu on the Supreme Court of Washington, she became the first woman of color. She is both Asian and Latinx descent, and first member of the LGBTQ to serve as a Supreme Court Justice. Justice Helen Whitener was recently appointed to the Washington State Supreme Court this year after previously serving as a Pierce County Superior Court judge who practiced criminal law both as a prosecutor and a defense attorney before her appointment to the Pierce County bench. When she was appointed to the Supreme Court, she was the first Black woman to serve on the Supreme Court and is the first openly Black LGBTQ judge in all of Washington State. Justice Whitener is from Trinidad originally, a country where being gay was punishable by 5 to 25 years in prison until as recently as 2018 when they changed the law. These 2 justices serve as co-chairs of the Minority and Justice Commission. Justice Whitener brought Color of Justice, a program to encourage young people to become judges of color to Washington State. And when we brought Color of Justice here to Yakima County, Justice Yu was our keynote speaker. I don't think they are Rotarians, but they are certainly dedicated to service above self through their role as justices and their dedication to equity issues and access to justice. They will share more about their letter on racism and their lead on the COVID response, but I will share my favorite part of the letter and try not to tear up. As judges, we must recognize the role we have played in devaluing Black lives. This very court once held that a cemetery could lawfully deny grieving Black parents the right to bury their infant. We cannot undo this wrong, but we can recognize our ability to do better in the future. And I will also add that as someone who is practicing law during a pandemic, the Supreme Court's guidance during this pandemic has been potentially life-saving. Nothing was happening in Yakima County courts until the Supreme Court issued an order continuing cases and setting forth guidance to keep both attorneys and clients safe. So I am incredibly indebted to them. And it is as I said, my deep pleasure to introduce both of them. You are all in for a treat. Thank you both for coming and speaking.
Great. Thank you, Quinn. I'm looking for Justice Whitener only because I want to get some visual clues to make sure that I'm not going to be speaking over her, that I'm going to defer to her as much as I can today. So I'm searching for her on the multitude. There we are. There's Justice Whitener. So let me first of all say thank you, Quinn, for the invitation. I love coming to Yakima, and whenever there's an opportunity to somehow be present with you, you know I'm going to accept that invitation. So thank you very, very much. Yakima is always very special. One of the things that I thought of was I wanted to bring somebody who is very special, who you already have introduced, because our court has gone through a radical shift over the last couple of years in many ways. New voices coming on, and I would say probably the most important feature, or two important features, is the large presence of trial judges now on the Supreme Court. It makes a difference when we have judges who understand what has happened in the trenches as a trial lawyer, but in my view, as a trial judge. Someone who's had to make very, very tough decisions about evidence, about guilt or innocence, but really somebody who understands what is going on in our courts. So I was so pleased when we had Justice Raquel Montoya Lewis join us as the first Native American justice. And then, of course, I was completely thrilled that my colleague and dear friend, Justice Helen Whitener, when she joined us on the court for so many different reasons. Obviously, we are a diverse court with different views, but now we are a diverse court with different backgrounds. Justice Whitener is not only experienced as a trial judge, but in my view, I have to admit, and I'm sorry to embarrass you a little bit, Justice Whitener, she's wise. She's truly wise, and she has courage, and she's never been afraid to speak her mind whenever the situation calls for it. I'm so happy that she's on our court because of the way that we make decisions, right? It's 9 individuals discussing cases and trying to come up with the best resolution possible. Like all of you, we are struggling right now in so many ways. We haven't been together in a room discussing cases. We haven't been in our courtroom hearing oral argument. I've not been able to wholly embrace my sister, Justice Helen Whitener, as a colleague in the way that I would have wanted to. I believe this time will pass and we will have that time to come together. But our court, again, is busy. Quinn mentioned 2 things. One has been our supervision over the court's response to this terrible COVID-19 and trying to provide direction to our courts. But also there's another historical moment, and we stepped right up, and that is to address the problem of racism, institutional racism, and our role and sometimes not doing a single thing about it, and other times doing it in a manner that has failed. The best thing about our court is our court embraced the opportunity to challenge every lawyer and to challenge every single judge to assume the responsibility for making it better. So I have much to say, and we will answer any question that you have about COVID as well as our letter, but I want to provide an opportunity for Justice Whitener to extend her greetings and to make a few remarks, because I'm just so thrilled that she's with us and that she's with me today.
Well, hello, Yakima, or how do you pronounce it? Rotarians, I heard everyone say, so hello, Yakima Rotarians. Thank you so much for the invitation, Justice Yu, and thank you to the Rotarians for inviting me this morning to just chat briefly. I actually wrote a little thing in regards to the COVID-19 situation, so you'll have some background as to what the courts have been doing. As you know, the mission of the Washington courts is to protect the liberties guaranteed by the Constitution and laws of the state of Washington in the United States, impartially uphold and interpret the law, and provide open, just, and timely resolution of all matters. We also strive to provide open access to our proceedings. Needless to say, the COVID-19 pandemic has challenged our courts in how we operate and in how we provide critical justice services to all who need them. Courts provide essential services, and we have been working diligently to try and remain open and accessible to ensure access to justice remains of great import. Protection orders, urgent disputes, family law matters, and criminal matters, matters of civil rights continue to be addressed. Many courts have been operating remotely, utilizing telephone, video conferencing, emails, and web-based communications. Things we used before, but I can tell you never on a level as has been required since the pandemic. The judicial branch has been working collaboratively with the other branches of government, our Chief Justice has, and the statewide response effort. The Supreme Court in April began operating remotely through Zoom, and the hearings are live streamed by TVW. That's pretty important for me because I started on this bench April 24th. And as you've heard from Justice Yu, I have yet to sit on the bench in person with my colleagues. So I believe I've just made history as well as the first virtual Supreme Court justice. Now you see me, hopefully that means you'll see me again in person at some point in time. But right now, everything has been virtual. I'm actually at home right now in one of my rooms, working remotely since the court is closed. Open and transparent is very important to the courts, maintaining the courts and the public's trust and confidence that you've placed in us. But most importantly, through this pandemic, being healthy and safe is important. And not just for those of us who work within the court system, but those of you who utilize the services of the court. It is paramount to us that we remain safe and that you and us remain healthy. So in other words, your courts are trying to utilize technology as best as it can in moving forward. We do have limitations in regards to funding. We have realized just how much our courts are in need as we are working with archaic, in archaic locations. Our buildings are ancient in some respects, but we're doing our best. And at the end of the day, all I can say is your judicial officers are trying really hard to maintain the court as well as make sure that it is accessible to all, because access to justice is paramount to us. It is truly wonderful to be here with you this noon hour. And as Justice Yu has indicated, the court, by issuing its letter in regards to the recent events of racism, was something I had never seen before. And by that I mean, I have never seen a court give such a directive before. I have lived through racism, but I have just never seen the judiciary take such a strong stance. And it really made me feel welcome, especially since I was welcome in this virtual world. That was not virtual, that was truly real. So thank you again for having us this morning.
You know, one of the things that I just would like to mention is what's so unique in terms of the COVID matter. And I think, you know, we had Quinn mention that nothing was happening until the Supreme Court stepped in. And that's because all of our courts, right, are independent in the sense that we're not a unified court system like some states where you really have the chief who really is at the top and directs down anything. And here there are 39 counties and everybody is pretty independent. Each municipal court and district court and superior court pretty much are independent. And so the chief is really the figurehead in the state of Washington. And what is remarkable and what I think is historical is that the court ended up stepping in and providing guidance in a way that no one ever thought they'd see in our lifetime. And every trial court looked to the Supreme Court voluntarily to say, please, give us guidance and tell us what to do. Do we suspend trials? Do we go forward? Can we actually go ahead and hold trials in a virtual manner? Is it permissible? What do we do about criminal trials and the right to go to trial within a certain time frame when we can't even begin to convene people? And the court stepped in and assumed authority simply because trial courts wanted us to step in and say something. No statute was changed, no court rule was changed. The chief has the same level of authority that you did the day before. But what we have for the first time is the court acting as one. It's almost as if we're in a rowboat together, rowing in the same direction with a lot of different players, but there's harmony, there's uniformity, there's a sense of that we have to move forward as best as we can in light of public health concerns. So it's a new role for the court that hasn't been seen before. I'm hoping that this provides us with some tools and perhaps some learning lessons about how we might work collaboratively in the future. It matters to us that our judicial officers and our staff are safe, but it also matters to us, more importantly, right, that members of the public who come into our courthouses will be safe. So the guidance that we have been provided through what we call general orders, and that is an order that is issued outlining some of these principles, what's permissible, what's not permissible, and it just gave trial courts permission to go ahead and act on the authority that they already had. It's remarkable. And I would say probably the best thing about it is that we have everybody talking to each other, from Spokane to Seattle, from Yakima to Vancouver. Is trial judges are collaborating and working together and sharing information about how they're doing their business in light of COVID-19. The date that is unique that's coming up is July 6th. And that's because our order, the last order that our court issued, indicated that that's when trial courts would resume having jury trials. That's around the corner. So we're still in a tentative mode, wondering whether or not jurors will respond to a summons. We would certainly look to Rotarians across the state to say if it's possible to remind people about how important it is to serve if you're called. Obviously, we want to protect individuals. We're doing everything we can to make sure that there are social distancing practices, that there will be masks available. We're going to do everything we can possibly do, but we can't guarantee, but we do everything we can to try to ensure that it's going to be a safe environment when people come. And we're going to need your help in communicating how important it is to protect a person's right to go to trial. You can't keep people incarcerated forever when they're waiting for a trial. The second that I'll just make some brief comments on, and then again, I'm going to turn to Justice Whitener to add anything, is the letter that we issued. I think, as everybody has recognized already, it is historic. It's historic that the court opted to intervene and not to just write to the general public, right? We felt that we wanted to write to the individuals who have a special responsibility in society, and that is lawyers and judges. We bear responsibility for the system that's not perfect. In fact, a system that perhaps has been unjust and unfair, in particular to Black men. We have a responsibility to ask hard questions. We have a responsibility to fix the systemic problems rather than just push it off as somebody else's problem. And I think as judges, we have tended to say, well, I'm the last stop. And so I really have no responsibility for what happens outside of my courtroom. Well, that's not true. Our whole system of justice works together. We are partners with every single entity in the criminal justice system. We are the ones who can convene people at a table to look at our practices, to ask how we conduct bail hearings. Why is it we make a decision on release, not release? Is it a rational decision or not? We are the ones who can convene and move in a different direction. And the call that our letter issued to judges is one that we intend to follow up on. We believe that we can make a difference, and we believe that the time is now. So, Justice Whitener, I'm going to turn this over to you to share any other remarks, and then maybe at some point we'll open it up for questions from anybody.
Well, I think there's very little I can add because Justice, you summed it up so well. But I always live by 3 V's, and I ask you to consider them as you move forward on this subject. And that is be visible for those who can't see and can't speak, be vocal for those that can speak, can't stand for themselves, and be vigilant about it. So take a stance and support equality for all in all its forms. We have differences, I always say, but we're not truly different. So be vocal, be visible, and be vigilant. Thank you.
Wow, what a beautiful, beautiful. Thank you very much, Justices. This was a very highlight of my whole year right here to be able to have this program. I just want to let you know that we're making a donation in your names to polio for eradication of polio. And once again, we thank you very much. And now we'll open it up for questions. So if you want to go ahead and unmute yourself and be able to ask a question for either one of the justices, this is great. Thank you.
Oh, hi, my name's Kelly, and I have a question for both of you. My husband is an attorney, and we've often been talking about what it might be in a courtroom like to actually try to get jurors to come and attend. And so I'm sure that's probably one of the biggest challenges is how or is it even possible to contemplate how we can encourage people to do their civic responsibility and you know, have the courage to be a juror during this time?
Well, you know, that's the question that we're wrestling with, in a sense that some courts have recognized that they can't do this in their courtrooms. And so some have rented space that would allow for jurors to be spaced out and for lawyers to put the case on. Believe it or not, people are having to ask questions such as, is everyone required to have a facial covering? How can a witness testify with a facial covering? Well, they wouldn't, right? We would have to install a plexiglass. We would have to make sure that it's cleaned after each witness. We want to make sure that jurors come in every day, right? And if they don't have the proper equipment, such as facial covering, or perhaps even some sort of sanitary towels or anything that they might need, the court's going to have to provide that. So the only thing that we can do is take this one step at a time. And the first step is beginning to say, remember, there is a right to a jury trial in the state of Washington, and we need you to help us through the process. The second, and it falls back on us, is creating a space that allows for the safety of others if we're going to gather people. We will abide by public health guidelines. And if it cannot be done, it won't be done. But I think that you're going to have this court put in 100% effort and to ask our trial courts to do the same. Our chief has been able to secure masks or facial coverings in a significant numbers such that we will be able to provide those to jurors once that gets going in every single county. That's not enough, and we know that. We know that there will be people who will simply be afraid, and we're going to have to provide guidance to some of our judges about how it is that you might excuse individuals. We don't want people to be at risk. We don't want people to be anxious in a way that doesn't allow them to pay attention to the evidence. So is it going to be tough? Absolutely. Perhaps we'll do jury selection using Zoom, which is another option. Why should people have to come down for jury selection? It might be that this is how it occurs. And then once jurors are selected, that then those are the individuals who might come down to a courtroom or to another space that would allow, again, for social distancing. This is all an experiment. We're just going to keep trying to see when we can do it.
Other questions?
Justice Whitener, I didn't know if you wanted to add anything to that.
No, just coming from the trial court myself and coming to the Supreme Court in the middle of the transition, all the things that you've covered, we have been wrestling with. Our courtrooms are too small to socially distance 6 feet apart. What do you do with a juror who does not want to wear a face mask? Or what do you do with an attorney that doesn't want to wear a face mask? These are some of the questions that the trial level courts are wrestling with. How do you secure a defendant's constitutional right to a speedy trial when you have these issues coming up? Are you even going to be able to impanel a full jury to hear the case? Should we have 12 or can we have less than? So these are unprecedented times, and the trial level courts are struggling to come to some sort of consensus and figure out some solutions. And hopefully everyone will be patient with the court as we try and work through these.
If I may, Charlie Robin here. I'm the CEO of the Capitol Theater, one of the larger venues for gathering people in our community. And in working with my colleagues from the West Side, I understand that some of them are also looking at being the resource to the courts so that the larger gathering space that we are, which we can't necessarily use in a phase 2, phase 3 option for what we traditionally do, are becoming some of the options for gathering the large pools of jurors to get through the process, or even doing a court within the structure of a theater where you can space out, and really thinking outside the box about how, in this transition for us, we're still able to be a support to the community. And I've been really intrigued by how the courts have been looking that far afield in their approach.
And that is so true. I know in Pierce County, where I came from, we were looking at the convention center because you have to find a large enough location to socially distance. So it's glad, I'm happy to hear that you're also doing some of that over there in Yakima. Yes.
Hoping to.
I was going to say we ought to encourage it. We ought to encourage our judges to reach out to theaters. I love the idea. I think it's great.
Yeah, and a great example in Tacoma. Yeah.
Thank you.
It would be the prettiest courtroom I've ever practiced law in, Charlie.
Charlie,
That's one way of looking at it.
Charlie, Judge Elizabeth Tooch is on this Rotary call, so I'm hoping that she has that message, and maybe the two of you can talk about that.
Happily.
Oh, hi, Judge Pinnell.
Hi, Justice Whitener. So good to see you.
Yeah, nice to see you too.
And, I have to say that Judge Pinnell and the Court of Appeals have been remarkable. They have not missed a beat in doing everything they can to continue to hear cases. Again, under the same level of stress that we are, in the sense of utilizing tools that we weren't comfortable with and trying to figure it out and trying to make sure that lawyers have the right to have oral argument if they wish at the end of the day. So thank you, Judge Pinnell, for everything that you're doing.
Thank you. I'm really hoping that good things can come from bad. I know that some attorneys from Yakima, it's been difficult in the past for them to argue cases in Spokane, but now we're going to have more flexibility. And I'm hoping going forward permanently, more options for people to appear in our courts more easily and less expensively.
Other questions?
I'm curious to know if you've had time to generate the health questions, the preliminary questions of a juror that could potentially be very tricky to have those up front. As someone who has experienced participating on a jury at least 4 times in my life, I'm now curious about what kind of preliminary health questions would be generated.
And we actually do. Go ahead. Well, go ahead, Justice Whitener.
I would think if I'm thinking like a trial level court judge, that it would be similar to dealing with sensitive issues that we normally would deal with on trials, in that there will be individual, either a questionnaire or individual questioning. It is not something I think would be appropriate to be discussed with the whole veneer. So it might be done by way of a short questionnaire where the juror can indicate specifically what their basis is for being or making a request to be excused, or it can be done by individual questioning outside the presence of the full veneer, because we are dealing with health questions, health issues, health information, and there's that privacy issue there. But it's similar to dealing with a sex case where there are privacy issues there as well. So I could see the trial level court handling those matters, at least in a similar manner going forward.
And what we have a task force, a statewide task force made up of trial judges that are really working through each of the phases of a trial and trying to provide a booklet for every single court. And one of the things in the booklet is write a sample set of questions that you might ask. And we hope that perhaps it would even be available before a person even comes down, so that they might log in once they get a summons onto the court's website, answer the questions, and then automatically perhaps be excused or have that jury service postponed because of the way some of the questions were answered. It would be private. It would allow somebody to be honest in terms of how they felt, or perhaps what conditions they might have that would put them at risk. So they are coming up with, again, a uniform set of questions that would assist any trial judge on how to go ahead and ask questions in regard to jury service.
I didn't know that. That's really good to know.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful.
Other questions?
I have a question. My name's John Ball, and this is segueing a little bit from the time of COVID to the time when COVID is just a bad memory. But I'd like to segue a little bit to the other part that we started talking about, which is the letter and the transcript of your interview. And some of the things that I kind of struggle with is, and this may be a really naive question, but you know, among us who are here on this particular call and or Zoom or whatever we call it, you know, we talk about the issues of racial justice and trying to move beyond the whole area of systemic racism. But as an individual person who kind of lives in, to a certain extent, we kind of live in a bubble of our own little world right now. Do you have any kind of ideas or things that you've seen or thought about or talked about that would help individuals like me to do more than just, you know, be a lip service to, you know, yeah, we have to get beyond racial justice. All right, or racial profiling. What I'm not a police officer, I'm not a judge, I'm not a lawyer. I'm just kind of a nonprofit, old, retired, has-been museum director.
In my view, I think it's not only the personal conversations that have to happen, and which are probably the most difficult, is challenging somebody, right, who has a different view, but having the courage to do it is probably one of the biggest things that we can do. But second, and I believe in economic power, and that's because I came from a very disadvantaged family as a young person, and I understand what economic power is and the access that it provides. So I would encourage each of you, support Black businesses. Go to Black businesses, buy your groceries, buy what you need, shift that money into businesses in your community that could use your support, because that's real and that will make all the difference in terms of bridging the divide, but empowering somebody else who's trying to do good, who's trying to succeed, and to support their family. That is one concrete way that I think it will make a huge difference. That doesn't address some of the systemic underlying racism, but it is something that is very real and will make a difference in your community, because many Black businesses are struggling to survive, especially during this crisis right now, right, when nobody is going out anywhere. But now that we're beginning to open up in some places, I think really the purchase power is so important.
Well, I think
Thank you.
If I can answer that question as well, is calling it out when you see it. Things that would be said to someone like me would probably not be said to my face. It would be said in your circle. And if you let it go, then at some point in time, it would be said to me. Many of us have been having training on implicit bias, which basically makes us aware of our unconscious bias. And all of us have it. The thing is, when I teach about implicit and explicit bias, I ask one question, and I'll ask you the question. What is the difference between implicit and explicit bias to the receiver? And when you think about it, you realize there is no difference, because implicit bias is your unconscious bias, and it's only implicit to you. For me to know about it means you have manifested your implicit bias. So therefore, it has always been explicit to the receiver. So when you see it, you call it out. And that's one way I think people who are from a different background can help. you don't have to be a judge, a lawyer, or any special person. Mr. Ball, is it? John Ball? I hope I pronounced your name right. I think, sir, just you asking that question says a lot. And that's the type of conversation that needs to occur. So I thank you for asking that.
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. President, do we have time for one more question?
Sure.
Justices, my name is Tim Carlson. I am a lawyer. As you can tell, I'm a little older, and I have spent most of my career practicing in the insolvency area. And unfortunately, one of the topics we're not talking about is the aftermath of COVID, and shall we say the subsequent results to the programs that have been supporting so many businesses. I'm definitely seeing that effect already, quite sadly, with regard to established businesses here in our town, to industries that we hold very near and dear. And obviously, the New York Times did a recent article about the agricultural business and the impact that were being had with regard to COVID. I'm curious, and I certainly wouldn't blame the court for not focusing on the receivership aspect, but one of our great tools is to use the state court receivership law, which Judge Baraka brought to us, a great law that gives us a reasonable alternative and frankly, a much cheaper administrative alternative to the bankruptcy system, which is federal for those who don't know. Has the court looked ahead, and is the court at this point moving toward a readoption of Rule 66, which is receivership in the sense that it enables better access to the courts for the emergencies, especially that occur in financial insolvency? And I'm just curious as to what the level of interest or impact might be at this point, either for the Supreme Court and or for especially the lower courts, the Superior Court, where we're involved in those particular proceedings. Any comments you feel you could make would be greatly appreciated.
I have to say that when you say to readopt or adopt Rule 66, I guess I'm just wondering, why would you say readoption? Is it not being utilized? Is it not? Is receivership not being utilized by lawyers in our system?
Definitely being utilized, Your Honor. I'm sorry. The question really is that the statute was intended to largely to replace what is obviously an equitable remedy, which is receivership. But Rule 66 sort of went by the way, and quite frankly, it wasn't very detailed at the time and didn't provide courtroom access on a priority basis. And I am concerned about that because obviously our courts are very burdened with a number of things that are very, very important, but equally important is the access, because as we deal with racism, as we deal with issues of illness that are going to fall out of this, and frankly, unemployment, being able to support those businesses and keep 20, 40 employee businesses afloat, if you will, over the difficulties that you get from lenders and people who have legitimate interests. Don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to in any way cast dispersions there. It really does require us to be able to get there. And fortunately, our trial judges are very sensitive to it. But as you move up the administrative area, it's very difficult to get the administrative attention to it. And if it were communicated by rule, I think, or other directive from the court, whether it be a GR or whatever. I'm not meaning to get too technical here in the meeting, but it's an area obviously of great concern to me because of the impact that I see on real human beings of every type. I mean, it doesn't matter. I'm a 300-pound man, so I've got a kind of an idea that people are impacted by the way implicit, if you will, bias, and economic bias is a very difficult thing to witness. And so I'm hopeful that the court could take a look at that, and maybe it's not on the radar screen. I wouldn't blame you, but again, it's a very effective tool, and the more we can help with that, it'd be great.
Timothy, what I'm going to ask you to do, if you wouldn't mind, because you're a lawyer, would you send me an email as a follow-up to this? And it was truly,
Excuse me, Your Honor.
Justice Whitener and I are starting a series of meetings with trial judges and raising a lot of different questions about how we're going to pivot in different directions to respond to some of the challenges that the court has issued. I also sit on the Rules Committee, so I would be very interested in something more from you that would help me better understand a path to take. Because anything that we could utilize to get past this, I can tell you there is openness. Absolutely, there's openness.
Well, I'm sure there is. Sometimes it's hard to have awareness when we want to have it. And so ordered and so done, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Well, I really appreciate you. I really appreciate you, justices, for being able to be on this call and this Zoom meeting, because it really means a lot. And also to let you know that this program, this is great because not only do we get to see it now, but we get to digest it on YouTube and as well as on our Facebook page, as well as on our website, so people can be able to do that. And I encourage our Rotarians to make sure that you share this program because this means a lot. I look forward to being able to have more conversations with you. Wow, Justice, you guys are great. I hope that you know that, we're a big club in a small town, and we have this big heart, and we're doing big things, not only in Yakima, but also around the whole world. And we look forward to having more conversations. Gosh, this was great. Thank you. Also, for next week's program, I'm going to ask Past President Doug if he could chime in to be able to tell us about what's going to be happening next week.
Dwayne, is there a way that you might be able to turn his audio off so he doesn't hear what I'm about to say? We are going to be celebrating Eric's year. I am greatly looking forward to this. I've kept my eyes and ears open. We hope to have a little bit of fun. It has certainly been a very, very unusual year that we've experienced, the second half of our centennial, but we're going to make it a good time. So I would hope that you would all be here. We've got a couple of special surprises and just a whole lot of fun. So I hope you're all able to make it next week to celebrate Eric's fantastic year.
Oh, shucks, you guys. Oh, geez. Well, once again, justices, thank you very much. I look forward to more conversations, and your points are well taken. And thank you all for being here. Wow, gosh, it's so great to be able to see you all. And make sure that you share this program because we want more people to be Rotarians in Yakima, just like our Alex. And Alex, wow, thank you for being here. You're going to be a great Rotarian. Looking forward to talking to you all and can't wait to be able to see you and give you a real hug, okay? All right, take care.